Hello, I'm Dr. Bruce Eisenberg for Staten Island Viewpoint. We're on location today at the home of a man named Rabbi Rami Cohen. Rabbi Cohen is an author. About 10 years ago, he wrote a book called The Youngest Partisan, telling the stories of his fightings alongside the partisans during World War II. He just came out with a new book called Rebbe, and it's a very fascinating book about a very fascinating man that he had the honor of meeting. And we're at his home for the send-off of this new book, and we're happy to be here for this exciting event. Hello, I'm Dr. Bruce Eisenberg for Staten Island Viewpoint. Welcome to our on-location event today. We're at the home of a man named Rabbi Rami Cohen. He's an author. About 10 years ago, he wrote a book called The Youngest Partisan. A really amazing book telling the story of his fighting during World War II as a partisan against the Nazis. He just came out with a new book called Rebbe. A very fascinating book about a very fascinating man that Rami had the opportunity to meet. Today, we're at Rami's home for the send-off of his new book. It's a wonderful event, and we're glad you could join us here on Staten Island Viewpoint.
She wanted to be a teacher. Yeah, so she thinks she could probably eventually.
Thank you. friends, please find your seats. Take some food eskes into hate. Our members of New York's finest and the New York Police Department, please take your seats. The first order of business will be the presentation of the colors and the singing of the national anthem. So please clear the aisles. Bagpipers, please come on the stage. Up on the stage.
We'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute. Pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Cantor.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, all the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, came broke through the night, that our flag was still there. All say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anim, amin, anim, amin, anim, amin. Be'emono shelema, be'piyas
Cantor Muller will be doing the Hymn of the Partisans. Thank you, Cantor. Thank you, choir. Again, the buffet is open. Please eat. We encourage you to eat to enjoy yourself. Food is meant to be eaten, Rabbi Cohen told me, not to be seen. So please enjoy. It gives me great pleasure to call upon my personal rabbi, my dear friend, who I look up to as a mentor, as a leader, a great pillar of the Staten Island Jewish community, Rabbi Yaakov Learfield, Senior Rabbi of Young Israel of Staten Island, to make a blessing. Rabbi Learfield, please.
It says over here, Rabbi Yaakov Learfield to give the blessing. I can't begin to understand what that's talking about. On the food you're eating, I hope and pray you all made a blessing. I'm going to give a blessing. I'm going to give a blessing to you, to your lovely Rebbetzin. What are you thinking? I can't begin to understand. The Satmar Rebbe, in his younger years after the war, he went to Eretz Yisrael to see some of the Hasidim. And he was leaving. He was coming home to Williamsburg, where he was planning and beginning to bring fruit to his Kehillah in America. So the Hasidim in Eretz Yisrael said to the Satmar Rebbe, "You can't leave us. How could you leave?" So the Satmar Rebbe called over a Jew, where they were, the numbers were on his arm, which means he went to Auschwitz. And the Satmar Rebbe says, "I'm going to give you a bracha. Any Jew that survived the Holocaust and is Shomer Shabbos and puts on tefillin and lights candles, why do you need me to give a bracha? They can give a bracha as good, if not better, than I could." Rabbi Cohen, Rebbetzin Cohen, what these two have accomplished in their life, read the book, The Youngest Partisan, read what they have done, read what they have accomplished, with everything that they have done. These hands, can I have a hand? How many bris milas have you done? 35,000 bris milas, which means, by the way, he doesn't take money. He is one of the best. You speak about gold in a hand. To use him as a mole on your child, you are literally bringing the bracha that you can't even imagine. What he has built with his hands, not just with bris milah, but what he has given, what he has put, what he has done. When I was younger, we spoke about the Ribnitzer Rebbe, and we all were in awe. You need a bracha? Someone can't see, someone can't hear, someone has cancer. And they went to the Rebbe. Just to get a word of bracha from the Rebbe was unbelievable. And we have a book. Rabbi Rami Cohen now wrote a book about the Ribnitzer. I will tell everyone in this room. The Ribnitzer is not here. You want a bracha? You see these two people over here? You want a bracha? For me to say I'm giving a bracha? These two people here, with their hand, with their mouth, with their eyes, with their ears, you want a bracha? You go to these two people over here, and I guarantee HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be listening, because these two people are not just gebenched. They're not just with mazel. They literally are pillars of Yiddishkeit for hundreds of thousands of Yiddim. And from ashes to renewal to what you have accomplished, These hands are golden a hand, which means golden hands. You want a bracha? These are the two.
Commissioner Castelli, on the stage, please. Are you here? I thought I saw you before, representing the mayor's office. Okay, before we go further, we call upon the professors. I'd like to introduce the dais we have with us today. We're starting with my left, moving down to the right. Rabbi Goldberg, Rabbi Kaufman, Commander Charles Greinstein from the Jewish War Vets. Professor Leonard Siaccio from College of Staten Island. Rabbi Avram Rami Cohen. Mrs. Malvina Cohen, you should have a perfect refuah shalema for what you have done to the Rebbe. I'm petrified today. I'm not stranger to a microphone, but I feel something special today. And that feeling should everybody refuah shalema. You make it here gesund, stay gesund, become more gesund. My dear friend Eileen Siaccio, who I tortured for several hours in this wonderful journal, who put it together, thank you. Professor Laurie Weintraub. The professor is important because the rabbi mentioned the Holocaust. General Eisenhower was discussing with Commander Greinstein when he entered Dachau, ordered the American Army to videotape the atrocities because he predicted there would be a day when Upleiken will deny what happened. And Professor Weintraub has a big merit, a big mitzvah to perpetuate the Holocaust. She does it through Wagner College. So through the advance. God bless you for those efforts and continue and do even more. My dear friend, a friend of all of Staten Island, who works 24/7, has no vacation. I text him 3 in the morning, I wonder when this man sleeps. Chief Kevin Woods, the chief of the fire department of the borough. And my dear colleague, Angela Olson, who's from the JCC, representing the JCC, and Assembly member Maliatakis, who's with the Assembly and Senate delegation Ireland. We lost them today. I hope they have a good time in Ireland, but tell them they missed a better luncheon today with better food and better drink. They should know. Assemblyman Charles Fall, please approach. I'm going to call soon on the Assemblyman to speak, but in the spirit of perpetuating the Holocaust, the Jewish community does not have a better friend than Charles Fall. We stood at the steps of the Albanian Cultural Center. We stood at the steps of Borough Hall. We shall overcome bigotry. We are not afraid. Deep in our hearts, do we believe, as Dr. King would say, when decent people lock hands together, and there really is a Lord in heaven, as the Mr. Rebbe taught us. We'll discuss this soon more in detail. We will overcome, because every human being is created in the image of God. And each time there was a graffiti incident in the borough, anti-Semitic in the borough, or any phobic attack in the borough, the first one to call me was Charles Fall. Thank you, Charles. Have a seat on the dais, sir. Seat on the dais. Have the professors will be up. With great pleasure, I'm going in the order I was given to me over here because I want to pass law school. I don't want to fail and go back again. So it says Professor Weintraub and then Professor Siaccio. Professor Weintraub, please.
Shalom. It is a great honor today to be asked by Rabbi Cohen to introduce his most recent book. As a professor of history and director of the Holocaust Center at Wagner College, where I've been for 24 years teaching about the Holocaust, Jewish history, global history, I've had the privilege to deeply study the tragic, courageous, and inspiring stories of Holocaust survivors and resistors, including Rabbi Cohen. I've been able to work collaboratively on a New York Emmy Award-winning film about the life of Rabbi Cohn, and a play where my students memorize his exact words of testimony. Moreover, I've had the honor to bestow on Rabbi Cohn the title of Doctor from Wagner College at the request of the president of Wagner College a few years ago when he spoke brilliantly to our undergraduates so that they too could hear from a Holocaust survivor. I think the clue for why Rabbi Cohn has asked me, when there's so many others in this room who could speak perhaps more spiritually about the Rebnitzer Rebbe, is the title, the subtitle, on the venerable tzaddik and mystical miracle worker in our generation. As a historian of Nazi Europe, I emphasize how important it is now, this book, for our generation. As Rabbi Cohn has often said, things can change quickly. And in the face of a rising global and local anti-Semitism, even here on Staten Island, of synagogue shootings, the march in Charlottesville, and over 100 hate crimes in 2019 in New York City alone, we must all seek to carry on the legacy of Rabbi Chaim Zanvil Abramovitz, born 120 years ago in the vibrant pre-World War II Hasidic and Jewish world, a culture nearly destroyed by the Holocaust, and a culture that in both his first and second book, Rabbi Cohn has now brought back to life, just as he did when he dedicated the Sefer Torah signed by the Rebnitzer Rebbe in the streets of Borough Park, bringing the spirit of Pressburg to Brooklyn, New York, many generations, many decades later, and despite the odds. Rabbi Cohn opens his book by showing how the Rebnitzer Rebbe has inherited his emunat tzadikim from his father, Rav Moshe, from his mother, Yudah Zipporah, a descendant of Rabbi Adam Bel Shem, and from his first Rebbe. He never lets us forget how the Rebnitzer Rebbe is the embodiment of purity and compassion and Ahavat Yisrael, Ahavat Hashem. As in the passage from the Ashrei prayer, V'rakamanav al kol ma'asav, and his compassion is upon all creatures. Dr. Rabbi Cohn's book bears witness to the miracles the Rebnitzer Rebbe has performed, his compassion and his holiness for both Jews and non-Jews on 3 continents, including in Nazi-occupied Romania, Serbia, in the repressive Soviet Union through the 1970s, one of the last rabbis to leave, in Israel, and in many, many parts of the United States. These miracles take place in hospitals, in courts of law, on highways, in the streets, in forests during thunderstorms, and in homes, all at great risk. Indeed, all through the Soviet era, the Rebnitzer Rebbe risked his life to fulfill the Torah and its commandments, to disseminate Yiddishkeit, to encourage others as a shochet, butchering kosher meat, as a mohel, performing circumcisions, and as a teacher. I have 3 stories from the book that I want to share. In the first, a Soviet prosecutor had a mountain of evidence that the Rebbe had violated many laws in the Soviet Union. But ultimately, a judge who was not Jewish exonerated him, saying, quote, although deserving of death, the defendant once risked his life to benefit the regime. This was when the Nazis stormed Ribnitz, and a loyal Russian partisan fought a bloody battle against the Nazis. Late one night, a partisan knocked on the Rebbe's door, reporting that they were starving to death. But it was too dangerous to go out in the Nazi-infested streets. Not for the Rebbe. He said, "As a Mensch darf üben zu essen, darf man geben." If a person needs to eat, we must give him. The Rebbe collected scraps of food, knocking door to door. And so this non-Jewish Soviet judge, who had been witness to the heroism of the Rebbe, repaid him by freeing him from certain death. A second, one of the miracles in the book that particularly touched me is about one of the Brit Milah. As you know, the Brit Milah is a tradition that links Rebbe Cohn and the Rebbetzin Rebbe. It took place in Florida when one of the Rebbe's students had an infant so ill he needed for the Rebbetzin Rebbe to bless him. It wasn't even clear that a bris could be done, and yet the Rebbe did so and uttered the words, "He shall study the Torah and see its meaning." Although the doctors had no hope for the parents, within a few weeks, the child had returned to New York, and it had come true that his eyes could follow the finger of Rabbi Cohn. This is one of the many demonstrations how faith and prayer offers hope. And so we get to perhaps the best known story of the Rebbetzin Rebbe in Nazi Germany and Moldova, when the Gestapo, along with local collaborators, rounded up the Jews and marched them to the forest. Recognizing the violence that was about to incur, the Rebbe summed up his courage and approached the Nazi commander. Head high, he asked the commander for a final wish before execution. "May we have 10 minutes to pray?" Surprised by his audacity, the Nazi officer agreed, and the Rebbe turned to his terrified Jewish brethren to daven together. The voices of the innocent rose to heaven, and at that moment, a convoy of German soldiers passed by and saw the pandemonium. A senior German officer demanded to know what was going on, to which the platoon officer replied, "We are about to exterminate this Jewish scum." No one knew what passed through the general's mind, but he abruptly ordered that the Jews be free. And so, Baruch Hashem, all of them returned safely that day. And so the fearless devotion of the Rebbe as a role model of the power of faith, that it provides us to stand up despite our fears. One of the most famous Talmudic stories involves Rabbi and sage Hillel, who sums up the Torah with the phrase, "Love your neighbor as yourself." And almost exactly at the center of the book, I found a phrase that I think sums up this book. It is the concluding words of a chapter where the Rebbetzin Rebbe foresees and reassures a Jew accused of arson, falsely accused. He tells him, "Today the judge will dismiss your case," and sure enough, although his own lawyers and the judge doubt when he says so, it is revealed by a non-Jewish witness that the complaint was coerced and false. And the final words of this chapter are, "The world must know that God is in charge." We all have had moments in our lives where we know that this is true, and we thank Rebbe Cohn for reminding us in this book, the world must know that God is in charge. And I'll just say that this particularly resonated for me because my father, who's here, and who was in the had worked his whole life on the 67th floor of the World Trade Center, on 9/11, was dropping off his granddaughter at school and was late that day, and he was able to survive. So we know that this is true. In my role as professor of history at Wagner College and director of the Holocaust Center, I have repeated many times the words of Elie Wiesel, "Whoever hears an eyewitness becomes an eyewitness." This book, too, testifies to the transformative power of eyewitness testimony. As we read Dr. Rabbi Rami Cohn's words, we too are transformed. Toda Rabah. Toda Rabah. Thank you.
Now we call upon Professor Siaccio, Leonard Siaccio from College of Staten Island. From here, wherever you want.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're all here as friends of Rami Cohn. I feel very honored to be included in this group. Thank you all, and especially thank you, Rami. When Rami asked if I would want to say a few words, of course I knew right away I had to ask him for some advice about what did you have in mind. And he looked me right in the eye and said, "Please be brief." Okay, obviously he's never sat through one of my lectures. At any rate, as I tried to prepare, I found myself with a dilemma. And the dilemma was, with each point that I would think of making, I soon had 2 or 3 sub-points about what I needed to say about Rami Cohen. We moved into one of Rami's houses 40 years ago. So I've known Rami for those 40 years, and I have lots of stories. Okay, but I also know that Rami Cohen is a very modest man. I've seen people walk up to him with praise, and you can see that he's not really into being praised. So this really makes a very important statement. A group of people who also have something in common. We know the virtues, the honesty, the goodness of Rami Cohen. We all have our stories. Our lives have been defined by stories of Rami Cohen and how he has helped us and moved us in our lives. We know, for instance, through his book, The Youngest Partisan, we know of a child, literally, rising up with courage to confront the worst evil, the evil racking his land, attacking his family, attacking everyone he knows. We know that story. We know that man because we all have lived near that man and watched him in everyday life. In a true sense, Rami Cohen has given us this vision of how to live. Okay, and in Rami's first book, towards the end, along with all of the wonderful stories, there's one question that just grabbed my attention when he said it the first time. He asked, why was I chosen to survive? Okay, and of course we know that answer. We know he was chosen to survive to save people. We know he was chosen to survive to honor his magnificent wife, Malvine. We know he was chosen to give examples to all of our children, to us and to all of our children. We know that he was chosen because his tradition that he honors goes all the way back, right, to the time of Moses, to Aaron, and lives through his witness, through the book, The Youngest Partisans. And now, specifically today, we celebrate, if you like, the second level of that journey of Rami's life, and that is the witness of this magnificent holy man, and the insights that Rami's association with the Rebbe represented. All right? Rami's second book, when you read it, will amaze you because Rami tells a story about things that he saw, that he was personally involved in. But as you read it, you will get this sense that through the journey, through this association with the Rebbe, Rami has been thoughtful, thinking about what does it all mean? What does all of this mean? And he shares that. We can actually see how that experience has affected Rami. You can see this in the book, okay? And in fact, Rami's experience in the book, the teachings of the Rebbe really present a way to live your life, okay? And it's clear that that's where the strength that we associate with Rami Cohen, the strength that shines through in the young partisan, that comes from faith, that comes from knowing how to be patient, how to love, how to give, how to risk everything in service of the right thing. Can this all come at a more perfect time in our society that we need to remember all of these things? How to be really good people. And I thank you for all coming to hear this and hopefully taking what we all know from Rami Cohen so that there can be a better blessing for our children, for our grandchildren, for the entire world. Okay, thank you so much. And I have one more little thing. In attempting to honor Rami's request that I be brief, I really considered that I really needed only to say one little phrase. The little phrase is, and I say this for all of us, thank you Rami Cohen, thank you Malvine, for giving us so much.
Thank you, Professor. Before we go further, I want to recognize some of our honored guests that we have with us today. We have Rabbi Weisfeld from the Borough Park Center. We have Rabbi David Katz from the Rabbinical Alliance. The bagpipers, as mentioned before, all police officers, uniform service people. Stephen Frackert, Chris Zalitsky, Robert Conwell, and Thomas Roster. Let's have a hand for them. Also, we are joined on the dais by Commissioner John Castelli from O's from the City of New York. The mayor regrets he was unable to attend, but he's asked his commissioner to read the letter that he's written for the occasion. Commissioner Castelli.
Thank you, Mendy. I'm going to read this letter on behalf of Mayor Bill de Blasio. And it says, it's dated September 22nd of 2019, and it says, "Dear friends, it is a great pleasure to welcome everyone to the book signing ceremony for Mr. Rami Cohen's new book, The Rebbe. The written word is one of the most powerful tools at our disposal to prevent horrors like the Holocaust from ever occurring again. We rely on courageous individuals like Mr. Cohen to recount their experiences so that others may be inspired by the stories of commitment to faith and the display of resilience in the face of tragedy. As mayor of the largest urban Jewish community outside of Israel, I am immensely grateful to Mr. Cohen for his dedication in aiding his fellow Jews in the aftermath of World War II, and for sharing his memories with us so that we might learn from his example and work to build a better and brighter future for all. On behalf of the City of New York, congratulations to Mr. Cohen for his many accomplishments. Please accept my best wishes for a wonderful ceremony. Sincerely, Bill de Blasio, Mayor.
Now we call upon the great Assemblyman Charles Falls. Want to speak from here? Come, Assemblyman. Rabbi Cohen, come for a picture. We didn't catch him before downstairs. Take a picture with him. Photographer ready? Moving to the center. Come around with a picture with the Assemblyman.
Everything that's going on. So all that being said, I will read her letter. Mr. Rami Cohen, I want to extend my sincere congratulations to you on the publishing of your new book, The Rebbe. The Rebbe is a wonderful written book that is truly excellent, living tribute to the victims and survivors of World War II and the Holocaust. This summer I had the pleasure and honor to visit Israel. While visiting that beautiful ancient land, I had the great joy of seeing many historic and holy sites, including the Western Wall, the Jewish Quarter, and the new U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. Yet the most impactful place I was able to visit was Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Remembrance Center. Yad Vashem was certainly not an easy place to visit. The chilling silence, the depth of emotion, and the stirring call of remembrance make it an emotional, challenging visit. But it is those emotions that cling to you and make you realize what an important memorial Yad Vashem is. Yad Vashem shows the unbelievable suffering of the Jewish people at the hands of the Nazis. It underscores the faith and determination of those who, like Rebbe Chaim Novel Abramowitz, escaped the final solution and went to build the democracy we all know as Israel. It brought new meaning to the words, quote, "never again," and left a permanent mark on my conscience. That was, as Americans must be at the forefront of fight against anti-Semitism. Whether it is the rise in anti-Semitic hate crimes on the streets of New York City, the boycott, divestment and sanction movements aimed at destabilizing Israel, or the actions and words of anti-Israel elected politicians on the floor of Congress. One thing remains crystal clear. As freedom-loving Americans, we must stand tall, shoulder to shoulder with Jewish people. Stories like the one that Rabbi Abramowitz need to be shared and should serve to inspire us to preserve through these troubled times with sincere faith and hope. Now, In the time of truly never again, now is the time to amplify and share those stories like that of the Rebbe. Now is time to preserve the faith. Thank you to your book, Mr. Cohen. I believe more people will be inspired to stand up to hate and hold faith onto themselves. Congratulations on the publishing of your new book, and I wish the utmost success in all of your future endeavors. Sincerely, Assemblywoman Nicole Maliotakis.
Thank you, Angela. I also want to recognize a couple other dignitaries in the room, Mr. Jim Kelly from the Richmond Foundation, Mr. Steve Clinton, and I didn't mention the Jewish war vets, besides Commander Grinsky, Andrew, and Neil Schindler. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, we'll call upon our fire chief, if Chief Kevin Woods with us. Say a few words. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Kevin Woods. I am the Staten Island Borough Commander for the FDNY. The FDNY has a great friendship and a great partnership with the Jewish community. Thank you for the invite, Mr. Cohen, Rabbi Cohen. I did watch a few video clips of you describing your experience as a partisan during World War II. You are truly an inspiration to all of us, especially with your bravery and courage. The FDNY loves bravery and courage. You never gave up on that rebuilding process. Faith and strength kept you moving forward, as we shall all follow your lead. God bless you as you are passing on a strong message to educate future generations with your writings. Of course, I have seen documentaries and have read about the Holocaust, but I will not pretend to be an expert. But I can compare similarities from the FDNY and 9/11. 11 days ago, we continued to have ceremonies honoring not only our 343 FDNY members that made the supreme sacrifice 18 years ago, but all that died on that day. We will never forget. It's a slogan we love to use in the FDNY. You have heard it spoken many times. You have seen it posted many times, but it does not have any substance. It does not have any meaning unless we act on those words. And that is what we do, taking action by remembering our fallen heroes and honoring them forever. That is what Mr. Cohen is doing, writing about his experience so others never forget. It has been 18 years since our country was attacked on 9/11 at the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and Shanksville, Pennsylvania. But make no mistake about it, every American was attacked on 9/11/2001. The enemy tried to take away our freedom and our way of life. Sound familiar? But our resiliency and our patriotism as a country, as a city, and as a community bonded us even stronger. Today we are here as a community. Our members in the FDNY are very special. They continue to work past that point where they could have retired. They risked their lives to save others, similar to Mr. Cohen's life story. Firefighters always want to do the right thing. They are extremely motivated and loyal. In comparison, Mr. Cohen is extremely motivated and loyal, especially when he was fighting as a partisan and afterwards with his writings. Most of our current members were not on the job in 2001. They continue with these great traditions, and in a few years we'll have members of the FDNY, the NYPD, and the military that were not born in 2001. And that is where we come into play, all of us, to remind everyone what happened 18 years ago and to never forget, and also what happened during World War II. Mr. Cohen continues to educate the world about the atrocities of the Holocaust in his writings, especially the newer generations that are not educated on the subject. You will never forget. We will never forget. I wish everyone the best with the upcoming High Holy Days starting next Sunday with Rosh Hashanah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your kind words. Also want to recognize the Rosh Hashiva, Rav Geltsaler, and my dear colleague, past president and current vice president of the Staten Island trial lawyers, Mr. Charles DeFestano. Charles, please come up and say a few words. I told you I'm going to get you.
Thank you all. I say this with great humility. I'm so honored to be here today to speak on behalf of the legal community, but more importantly, I'm here today because I have only two living heroes in my life. One is my father. Thank God he's still alive and healthy and shares his life with us. And Rabbi Cohen is my only living hero. And I was blessed to meet him through the intervention of Mendy Mirajnik, my dear friend. I had asked if he knew anyone in the community that could teach children, students, high school, college, and law students about someone who had a direct impact on the rule of law and the preservation of what we call the rule of law. I've only read about people like Rabbi Cohen in history books. I've only seen in newspapers people who have been able to literally put their lives at risk for us. So that makes this an ever special blessing for me to actually be here with him. We've heard of Martin Luther King and Harriet Tubman and Mahatma Gandhi. I put Rabbi Cohen in the same class of those people. If you look around, you'll notice that some of us, we all look different, but we're all the same. We all have the same essence. We all have the same soul. And that is Rami Cohen's mission, to bring us together, because we all live for one thing, which is truth. We all live for the truth, and we all have to sacrifice. So, Rabbi Cohen, I thank you again for the invitation to this special ceremony, and I hope you continue to teach as rabbi to all of us what it means to be a true man. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Charles, come back one more shot. I'm going to call upon Commander Charles Gransky to say a few words. Commander Gransky.
Certainly it's a pleasure to be here to honor the Rebbe and the Rebbe's sin. And I want to make two points that are a little bit off, but they're not off. First is the Jewish war vets are the oldest veterans organization chartered by Congress in 1896 to disprove the rumors that Jews didn't serve in the military. And I could tell you, on my mother's side, they fought on both sides because some lived in Mississippi and others lived in Colorado. So that's one myth, that the Jews don't fight. The other, if you Google the New York Post today and Google the number 88, do people here know what 88 stands for? Okay. The 8th letter of the alphabet is H. And if you look at any of these neo-Nazis, any of these white supremacist lowlifes, they all have tattoos, 88. Just Google 88. That's the first thing that appears. It appeared on my synagogue wall 11 years ago. And I have a piece that's online in the Post about it today, because the FCC wants to change the suicide hotline, and rightfully so, from a 10-digit number that means nothing to a 3-digit number, 988. And I told them, I've written to them, to Schumer, and to Rose, don't pick 88, pick 777, pick anything, but be aware of our community and what HH stands for. It is bad, and this is why we need to have people like the rabbi to retell the story of a generation ago, and we still have young men serving in the military that we support from the Jewish War Vets for the holidays that are still serving. So thank you, Rabbi, for bringing this again to the attention of the public. It needs it more and more, and Mendy, thank you for having such love for veterans.
Thank you. Charlie, and I publicly said it, I'll say it again. If it wasn't for the veterans fighting, the rule of law wouldn't survive today. The flag stands here thanks to the veterans. Another round of applause for the veterans. I want to say a quick Vartire in honor of the occasion. In yesterday's parsha, yesterday's Torah reading, in chapter 25, verse 10, 28, verse 10, Chuf Ches Yud, the Torah Kedosha says, "V'ra'u kol amei haaretz ki shem Hashem," that all the nations of the world will see that the word of Hashem, Nikra, is written on you. The obvious question, what does it mean that the nations of the world will see that the word of God is written upon the Jewish people? So the Ohr HaChaim HaKadosh explains that tefillin, phylacteries, what the Jewish male wears every day, has God's name on it. But the question comes, we take the phylacteries off, we put them away. So how will the phylacteries help us be an oral on them, an illumination to the world? So the Levi Yitzchak Mibardishev explains, it doesn't mean the actual tefillin you're wearing, it's when you inculcate the lessons of the tefillin into your head. So when the people look at you, the teachings of the Bible, the teachings of the Torah, the teachings of the Talmud become you. When you become a walking example of what a person is supposed to be, what a Jew is supposed to be. To be a good American means to be a good Jew. It means you have to have faith and you have to observe, you have to believe. And believe in the country and respect the country. When you become a God-fearing person like a Rami Cohen or Rabbi Cohen, you will influence others. However, I believe in unity. So I see the Shavart from Reb Levi Yitzchak Mibardishev. But the story is told also from the Vilna Gaon. The Gaon of Vilna, who was a big misnagid, a great Gadol B'Yisrael. And the story went, he was in a Kretschmer once in Litta. And there's a little steeple, a little room in this inn. And this inn was meant for the Tsar, or the big Paris. Paris means the landowner. Well, the Tsar would come, it was their room. And he was warned by the Tsar, when I come into my room, but Moshka, if you find over there anybody in that room, I will kill him and I will flog you as a punishment. The Vilna Gaon came, and for some reason he saw that room, he wanted the room. And the innkeeper and the Rebbe, I can't give you that room. Forget me getting flogged, I could take the beating, maybe survive. He's going to kill you. The Tsar's going to kill you, catches you in the room. I want the room. No, what could the innkeeper do? He couldn't fight with him. The Vilna Gaon was in the room, and the innkeeper was trembling. And not happened. The next morning, he hears the entourage coming. And it was the Tsar showing up. Oy vey, what am I going to do now? He's going to kill the goon. Goon means the genius of Vilna. And what happened was, as the Tsar opened the door, he took a step back. And he said, Pirates, move on. Moshka, have a good day. It's okay. So the innkeeper asked him, Rebbe, how was it possible that the Tsar, he's a tough guy, could walk in, take one look at you and leave, spare your life and spare flogging me. What's going on over here, Rebbe? Trembling. So he says that Tefillin Shavuot. So whether you're a Hasidisha, whether you're a Misnagdisha, if you take the Tefillin Shavuot and internalize it in yourself, like Rami Cohen has done, then you could influence, be a mashpia, and help others. This gathering today was meant in honor who I did not have the exclusive meeting, but I met him through Rami Cohen of the Ribnitzer Rebbe. Professor Weintraub told the story of how the Eingraupen of the SS, Yamach Shemal, the nation would be mentioned even. Who they were killing? Innocent women, children. Look around you, this is what they're killing. Cowards, men trained in combat. Forget the Geneva Convention with POWs, which Commander Gecht could tell you about. Children you're killing? Babies you're killing? However, how could the Rebbe influence them? Because the SS saw, as evil as they were, the Tefillin Shavuot on the Rebbe, and they had to walk away. He told me a story once, Rami, that he was in a room with the Rebbe. Laura, I'm not going to steal all the stories Laurie said. And in the room there was a creature. I don't know what, some type of creature was on the floor in the family of a rodent. And the Rebbe sat there. He didn't want to kill the rodent. He went to Rabbi Cohen without mistake, and it's a living being. The Lord created a living being. How can we extinguish it? We have to study the purpose of a cockroach, a bug, a pest. Why did God create it? It wasn't to make people feel disgusted. It serves a good purpose. What is the purpose? And the course of that conversation, Rabbi Cohen was discussing more serious matters. What it shows you is the character of the person. If you have tefillin shebarosha on you and you believe in a higher being, in a Lord, there's faith. How could one kill somebody? How could one kill an animal? How could one have cruelty? In the midst of crisis, he saw the trees with the forest. Not just the bigger picture, but the smaller details. So with this, I want to thank Rabbi Cohen for giving me this course. And our discourse, your wife, the Rebbe, are perfect refuah shalema. You should have a refuah shalema. Whoever is healthy should be healthier. Whoever needs to be gesund should become gesund. Because it's important to be a mashpia, to influence people. Even though I didn't have this course of meeting the Rebbe directly, I met him through the Talmud. I'll conclude like this. In Judaism, we don't say somebody's a scholar. I talked to Professor Gershkin before, thank you for coming. I met your wife and she fits, Esther fits, Blessed Mary fits this description. In America we say a scholar. In England a Rhodes Scholar, a Harvard Scholar, Staten Island Scholar. But in Judaism a scholar is called a Talmud Chacham. It could have been Chacham Professor. It could have been Chacham, Mr. Commissioner and Rabbi. But why is it called a Talmud Chacham? Talmud literally means a student. Rabbi studying the Talmud, the Gemara, was starting to be a student. A Chacham means a smart student. Because every smart student has a smart teacher, a smart rabbi, a smart rebbe, a smart professor who influences them. You two are meant both, sitting apart. A Talmud Chacham means someone who understands the ego can't get in the way. As much as I know, there's what to learn. As much as I think I comprehend, there's more to comprehend. And the biggest compliment is to be called a Talmud Chacham, not a Chacham. If you want to have an advanced society, make society better, you have to be called a Talmud Chacham, a student of a Chacham. And that's Rabbi Cohen. Thank you so much for this course. I think we covered all the major speakers, but there are two surprises. And I know Rabbi Cohen is not looking for accolades. But as being a mashpia, we got to do it the right way. The first, I believe, is a gift of the picture of the Rebbe. And the second is a special proclamation. I know Commander Greinsky is here, but he also doubles up as the senior vice president of the Council of Jewish Organizations, of COJO, the central coordinating agency of the island. So first, we're going to please bring out the picture of the Rebbe, and then please bring out the proclamation. We're going to wrap up the program on this note. Rabbanim, want to say a word? Rabbi Cash, want to say a word? Want to say a word? You can come up on the floor. I'm serious. Zuganepis. Want to say something? Come, Rabbi Katz. Have them say it. This is Rabbi David Katz, the Menahel, the Director of Rabbinical Alliance of America, dear colleague of mine, of Katz, please.
Poischen b'chvoid l'achsania. The Mishnah says, Kol sheruach habriyos noicha meni, riach hamokoim noicha imenu. I think this Mishnah says, who this Balachsanya Rabbi Cohen, Avom HaKoyin Cohen, Kohen Shadata Yofa is a person that's beloved by ganz Klal Yisrael, Chasidische, Litvische, Amerikaner, Sfardim, Ashkenazim. Everybody loves Rabbi Cohen, and that shows how much the Rebbe Shloilon, how much Hashem loves Rabbi Cohen. But there's a deeper word in Mokoim. I thought till today that Rabbi Cohen is very known in Borough Park, Williamsburg, Flatbush, but Merichi Kamokim, even in Staten Island, in different kind of places, Rabbi Cohen is very, very known and very beloved. It says by Queen Esther, by Esther Amalka, that every nation said that Esther Amalka is part of our nation. The Polish would say Esther Amalka is Polish. The Hungarians would say Esther Amalka is Hungarian. Everybody said that Esther Amalka is hers. And the same thing is by Rabbi Avraham HaKoyen, the Kohen Shadat Yufa. Everybody says that Rabbi Avraham is mine. The Hasidim say he's a Chassid. The Litvisher say he's a Litvisher. The Oibeleder say he's a Oibeledersher. So the Eibishter helfen, that Beschizis Riach HaMukim Noicha Imenu. Rabbi Avraham should take us all a Kegin Riach HaPeinu, Mashiach Hashem, Bekorev Mamish. And Bizaval, we should be Zoiche to Exir the Chatzim Toive and the Shnaz Geula V'Yeshia. We daven every morning. We say L'Shmoya. We should be able to hear the Torah. Lilmoy to learn the Torah. Elilamed and to teach the Torah. How many people here are Melamdim? How are we davening to be Melamdim? If you will look in the book, the history of the Rimnitzer Rebbe, the Chetzadik Levucha, he was a Talmud from the Stefenesh Rebbe. And I will go back a generation before. There was Rav Zielson, the Rosh Hashiva in Keshenev Yeshiva, where my grandfather was a Magachir, and my great-grandfather, Reb David Zimring, who made Sefer Mitzir Devash, and his Aguas and Gamshas is in that Sefer, and they came from Keshenev Yeshiva. The Hasidische Bucherim from Keshenev Yeshiva became Hasidim from Rabbi Matasyahu, the Stefenesh Rebbe. And as I said before, my great-grandfather was a Magachir for younger Bucherim, and my grandfather was the Rosh Hashiva for older Bucherim. So they would tease and shepherd my great-grandfather, you Reb David, you are a Melamed. And he would say, yes, Baruch Hashem, I'm a Melamed. The Rebbeinu Shloilem also calls himself HaMelamed Torah Le'amo Yisrael. But getting back, why do we daven that we should be Melamdim Lelamed? We know our most important thing in this world is to be Mechanech and to bring up great doyers, great children. And there's two ways how to be a Mechanech. One way, you learn with your son, you teach your son, you teach your daughter, you put in koiches, you put in effort that your children should grow up to be great children. And the second way is to be an example, a role model for your children. And the difference between these two ways of chinuch, while a father could work with his children, he could only do it while he's alive. But after the 120, when the father is not alive anymore, he could only use a second method of being a role model, always speaking about him. Rabbi Avraham Cohen made today Tchias HaMesim. Tzadikim b'misosom kiriyim chayim. Today we have the Rimnitzer Rebbe alive. You open the book, you see how a person should be betoyer, beyir, bemidas toivis. This is called melamed. When we daven every morning, we ask the Rebbeinu Shloim, when I go into business, when I go to be a moil, when I go to do whatever I do, I should be a melamed, I should be a role model. People should see that I'm a perfect person, I'm a good person, and people should learn from me. Today is a gewaldige day. Aleph Sliches, Tovshi and Ayin Tes. Aleph Sliches, Erev the Rosh Hashanah, Tovshi and Pei, Haba Leim L'Toiva, is a day where Avram HaKoyen brought back life to the Imnitzer Rebbe. The Imnitzer Rebbe could teach us once again. The Imnitzer Rebbe will show us once again. And we will be Mekasheti these Tzadikim, and this will make us better. And I'll conclude that one of our greatest melamdim in this dor, in this generation, is our dear Balachsanya Reb Avram, who is a role model of what means Nekicha Payim, Arayne Hand, never took a dollar for a bris, never came out to people, always shared with people, always gave away his last dollar to people. This is our mentor, this is our melamed, and this will take us la'ad l'netzach netzachim.
Yes. By Rabbi Kaufman and Israel Bookshop to Rabbi Cohen. The cover picture of the book. Picture of the book. You have the proclamation. Commander Gransky, you do your duty now as the Vice President of Kojo. And Professor Laurie, bring it closer, maybe I'll read it quickly. Okay. We'll make it red. Proclamation. It is proclaimed by the authority vested in the Council of Jewish Organization of Staten Island as the central coordinating and resource agency of the Staten Island Jewish community to Rabbi Rami Cohen, a pillar of the Jewish community of Staten Island, in recognition of his contributions to strengthening and enriching of the Staten Island Jewish community. The proclamation goes on to read, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but testimony is recorded in the offices of Kojo. Rabbi Cohen's service during the Holocaust years. A man that was chased because he was a Jew. Look at this. This is an example of what Hitler called an enemy of the people. A man that does good. Could you imagine if the crematory in Auschwitz didn't kill all those millions of people? Perhaps the cure to cancer would have been found today. More benefits would have happened to society. What a waste. Torah scholarship, the Mikachon would have been even greater. What a waste to the world. In conclusion, in recognition of Rabbi Rami Cohen's accomplishments, he is hereby recognized as a valuable member of the Council of Jewish Organization of Staten Island and is inducted as an honorary and valuable member of the President's Advisory Committee. We affix our signature this 22nd day of the month of September in the year 2019, which happens to correspond to the Jewish calendar, 22nd day of the month of Elul 5779. Thank you, Rabbi Cohen. This is Rabbi Cohen will now address us.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to be very brief. I want to express my hearty, sincere appreciation for Mendy, what he did in behalf of the Rebbe. And the Rebbe, Schus or Barstein, should have Kita V'choltov without any exceptions. I would like to also thank very much Professor Dr. Lori Weintraub. She also put a lot of tremendous work and effort in here to this occasion should happen. And at least, and most, I would like to thank very much Professor Chaccio and his wife. I think where is she? Oh, she has disappeared. They worked very, very hard for editing the book, and Eileen, she made the glossary, spent days and nights to make a book should be what it is, which I appreciate, which deserves much appreciation and thanks what he did. It's MS, MS really, Kiddush Hashem. I worked very hard to get that book ready. It took me years. Before I started to dictate the stories, I was hesitant because the Rebbe was always so modest. He said always, "What do you want from me? I'm nobody, I'm nothing." And I was afraid they might not agree to have all these great things which he did to be publicized. But then I saw a story which I bring in the book, the story when they accused someone to set fire in a building in Brooklyn. There were all the evidence against that person to get at least 25 years jail. And the Rebbe intervened in his behalf, and he told him, "Go to the trial, and you're going to be free today." And exactly what happened. And the main witness came to the witness stand and before he started testifying, he told the judge, "Judge, I would like to make an announcement, a declaration. My testimony, which I swore, it's all not true. I was paid by one of the leaders of the community to do that, and the return I'm going to get well rewarded. So I want you to know that I didn't see anything, I didn't hear anything, all the testimony is false." So of course, he was vindicated completely. Matter of fact, the judge was trying to put the man on trial for false witness, false testimony, but he said, "I'm not going to press any charges. Those people accused me," and the court applauded to him and so on. It's Kiddush Hashem. So I got the book, the English translation, which is very difficult to translate from Hebrew to English because there's certain expressions and so on, and biblical quotes. It was a very difficult job. But Baruch Hashem, after a couple of years working very hard with the help of Dr. Chaccio, Mrs. Chaccio, and all those who helped me along, at least I would like to mention we have here a gentleman who actually wrote the original book. I dictated to him the stories and to put it on paper and in words. Would you like to stand up, please? Oh, here. Okay. So this is a gentleman here. It was the first time he sat down with me once a week. I told him the stories, he recorded them, put them on paper and in print. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you very, very much for coming. The commander who took this valuable time and came here to join this occasion. And I don't want to mention names. I don't do. I'd like to mention one person which is very dear to me, which is, what's his name? Doctor? Yeah. No. spoke before. No. Yeah. Anyway, I want to thank you all for taking time and coming here today, which I much appreciated. I want you to know the COVID is not mine. The honor is not mine. You came here to honor my teacher, my Rebbe, the Rebbe, which he taught us the fear of God, and the real fear of God. And I want to say, Shechayoni, Vikimoni, Vikioni, Lasman Hazeh. In plain English, blessed be are you, Hashem our God, King of the universe, who has granted us life, sustained us, and enabled us to reach this occasion. I was always praying, I'm not so young anymore, I'm past 90. I was always praying that we should have the schus to be able to see the book published. And Baruch Hashem, today, Baruch Hashem, the book is published. Only one problem we have. I asked the publisher, I promised to hand out books by the book signing, and I need 100 books. So he tells me, I'm sorry, we just sold out. No more books. And this miracle happened in 6 days, which is one, I think, this is a historic event. My dear friends, especially Mandy, who put so much work in it, I haven't got enough words to thank and appreciate, to express my appreciation. Mandy, thank you very much, and Hashem should reward you for all the work you did. As I prepared for today's festation, I thought about what I might say when I call out to speak, with the outcome of goodwill and respect from those of you who have come to honor the real Rebbe, as humbled by the thought of the warmth and affection will share with us. I know my own words will be inadequate, express my feelings. I will need to expect to help me, so I turned to David HaMelech. This was the king of Judea, the king of Jerusalem. He was a big composer, besides being a big warrior, and they had composed 150 psalms. Ladies and gentlemen, there's one psalm which is 150 verses. The smallest one, which have only 2. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard enough speeches, and I have harmonies for you. I'm going to quote only the shortest, which is 2 verses. Hallelujah es Hashem kol goyim, shabchihi kol imim, higor lein chazdoi, ve'emes adoin el olam hallelujah. In English, may God be praised by all the nations. May all people recognize, extol God's virtues. May God kindness saturate our lives. God's truth is that God is eternal. He is to be praised. This is the smallest chapter in Tehillim. With this here, I would like to thank you again. May Hashem all here present should bless you. The Ksivich Sivatove. Should have a wonderful year with joy, pleasure, perfect health, without any interruptions. Wird be es goel. Amen.
The bagpipers now. Quiet, the band and the bagpipers, please take off the music. Okay, the band then, please.
television. I want to do a quick interview. Sure. Okay. Ready? Ready? We have the pleasure of introducing Rabbi Rami Cohn, the author of several books. I know that his book, The Youngest Partisan, my family members have read and loved, read it over and over again. Now his new book about the Rebbe. It's really an honor to be with you today. Thank you for having us here at this event. Tell me, give me a little summary of what the new book is about.
The new book shows you there's much more than physics. There's such a thing as spirit, and I've had the pleasure and privilege to be with the Rebbe many, many times. And each time I was with him, I have seen that nature has no power whatsoever. I've seen with my eyes things, if I wouldn't have seen it, I just never would have believed it.
Oh, I read a lot of
Actually, your story in The Youngest Partisan is also something unbelievable, and it really can renew a person's faith in that goodness will survive and thrive. Give me a little bit of the insight in terms of your feelings after everything you've been through and your survival.
Well, I was just after Bar Mitzvah, where my parents, at that time, they came out, the terrible gezerah that they're gonna send all the Jews to Poland. Apparently it's supposed to be labor camps, but we knew that those are extermination camps. My parents were willing to sacrifice their life for Hashem, for Kiddush Hashem. But they want to have one wish they had after they all being killed by the Nazis and they are dead. Someone should say Kaddish for them, the prayer for the dead. And that was their wish. So they found a way, since I was the oldest, to found a way to someone who would be able to get me across the border out of the country. And they succeeded.
Okay, the book with your story in terms of, you're very humble, you're real honored, but the people that you helped, that you saved during that whole process, and your escapades, and how you brought faith into everything, even in terms of how to train a horse. You took your knowledge of Torah and Talmud, even there. And I think it's a really beautiful thing. And I'm sure that the Torah is really what's guided your life throughout all of this.
I think the most important thing which I did in my life, I was disguised as a Catholic, a Roman Catholic, with the name of Jan Kovac. I was dressed like a Gentile, no trace of anything which refers to Judaism, so I was not suspicious at all, and I was functioning in the city as a Gentile. While I'm walking the streets, I see a gentleman, a Jew who I knew very well. His name was Mayor Sofer or Schreiber. And he's standing on the street, and when you look at him, you can see right away that he's Jewish. So there was a rule, any Jew who is disguised, he meets another Jew, he makes believe he doesn't know him. Because the Gestapo, when they caught the Jew, they put him on the street, they were hiding someplace, and they used him as a bait. Anybody came close to him, they cut another Jew. So there was a rule, when you see someone on the street, you make believe you don't know him. So I pass him down the street, then I come back to the other side of the street and pass him again. He doesn't approach me, I don't approach him. The third time I said, he's really in trouble. Down on out in the street in the open, everybody recognizes he's Jewish. He must be in real trouble. But how could I help him? So I passed, when I came close to him, by passing him, I was whistling, and the whistling was a melody from Shalashidis Mizmor LeDavid. I knew the Gestapo, they don't go to Shalashidis, and not. So when I whistled that melody, he jumped over to him and he says, "Oh, Rami Cohen, yeah, I'm in trouble. I'm hiding by Goy with my family." And I gave him all my money. I gave him all my wife's jewelry, all the valuables we had, we gave him. We have nothing given anymore. So my host tells me, "Look here, I'm risking my life. They catch me, they shoot me like they shot you. We'll be both dead. But I have to buy on the black market food, which is not 10 times more than the regular market, which costs maybe 20, 30 times. It's a fortune of money. I can't afford it. Or you can pay, or you have to find another place. I can't afford to feed you." So he says he gave me 2 days. And today is the second day, and I have no money. So I gave him some money, and I made up with him. I meet him next week again. So I met him next week, and he was not alone. There were other 2 people with him. So I got scared. Most probably those are his escort, and those are the. He comes over to me and says, "Look here, those 2 people, they're also hiding not far from me. And they're in the same dilemma as I am. They need money to pay." So I said, "Listen, the money which I have is not enough, to survive for me," and so on. But I gave him all I had, and I made up with him. I meet him next week again. So I walk in the streets, 1 day, 2 days. The week is supposed to meet him, getting closer and closer, and I said, "Where am I going to get money? I'm going to have a bank. I don't know how to do that." Well, and while I'm walking the street, all of a sudden I meet a Gentile woman. She recognized me, recognized her, and she was a servant by a gentleman of the name of Shlomo Stern. This Shlomo Stern was a very rich man. He was in foreign exchange, and he had access with Swiss diplomats. They're sending messages and money from across from the country. I knew that he's hiding, and I knew that he's confident. So I told him, "Look here, I don't know where he's hiding. Don't tell me where he is, because I got caught. The Gestapo got out from me everything you know I didn't know. But there's a problem. There are people hiding here, and they have no money to pay, and I have nowhere to live." I made up a meeting in 2 days. After 2 days, she comes and she meets me, and she comes with a shopping bag. The shopping was full of money. So there I'd be able to support. Each time I met one, he brought another one and another one. So at the end of the war, in the end of 56 families. After the war, when I came in, first day into the synagogue, the people liberated approximately 2-3 weeks before. So they went to the synagogue and got started the services. So I came into the synagogue. People jumped out and started to kiss me and they screamed, my father. I said, "The father of my family, you saved them."
That's unbelievable. That's a
Can I just grab one quick picture? I'm sorry.
We're doing it on TV. That's a wonderful legacy that you've given to so many people for generations. Rami, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And Wagner College, the president, read that story which is in the book. So he decided, since I risked my life and saved 56 people, I deserve a doctor, and they gave me the honorary doctor.
This is true.
That's
yes.
a wonderful honor. That's and well deserved. Well deserved. Thank you very much.